What I do know is that something is going terribly wrong in our once beautiful country. Nigel Farage doesn't go as far as identifying exactly what that is, so we are left to surmise and speculate. I just wonder if the truth is being withheld from us. He asks, rhetorically, in the aftermath of the Southport killings and with a disingenuous air of innocent inquiry. It is, of course, anything but innocent, and his echo of the mob's inchoate chant, "We want our country back," is entirely deliberate. I want my country back, too. I want the values of respect and inclusion to be prized above all others again. I want us to continue to welcome fellow humans who, through an accident of birth, live in mortal danger. And I want the response to a mass killing of unimaginable horror to be measured and sensitive and respectful of those who have suffered. Instead, we get chaos, disorder, and bigotry. The unrest we have seen on our streets over the past 2 nights, I believe, can be directly traced back to Farage and to Tommy Robinson and Katie Hopkins, who shared videos and statements on social media about the alleged suspect, suggesting he was an illegal immigrant. And to Lawrence Fox, who responded to the killings by tweeting, "We need to permanently remove Islam from Great Britain despite the suspect's religion being unknown." And to all the social media rumor mongers, the malicious fake news spreaders, the conspiracy theorists, and the ugly coalition of English nationalists who have poisoned the public discourse with vile anti-immigrant sentiment. That's why the reaction to what happened in Southport is so disturbing. Rioters using that terrible event as an excuse to attack a hotel in Manchester just because we think asylum seekers are housed there. Hurling waste bins and bricks at police as an expression of our collective anger. Believing that this country's immigration policy is directly to blame for the deaths of those poor little girls. Appropriating the grief of others to fuel our hatred. Getting t-shirts made up with the girls' faces to wear as a uniform in a battle with the very police who attended the incident. Yes, there is a latent anger in some inner-city areas, but it has now been legitimized and unleashed by those who stoke fear, and who should know better. Farage is an elected representative with a responsibility to his constituents, and as a party leader, to a wider slice of the electorate. And there he is, sitting behind a desk, dark suit and tie, with a somber expression to match, looking for all the world like he's addressing the nation. But this is no statesman-like oratory. It's a 56-second soundbite for his 2 million followers on X, straight from his hero Donald Trump's playbook, a shameless call to action appearing as sober concern. He thinks he knows the truth that was being withheld from us. He was not explicit in his assertions, but the undertow of his rhetoric was clear that the perpetrator was not British, was an immigrant, probably illegal, and that this could be a terror-related incident. Was this guy being monitored by the security services, he asks? Some reports say he was, others less sure. These suggestions all appear now to be untrue, and however much Farage claims he was asking legitimate questions in the wake of the killings, he cannot escape the fact that someone in his position should tread carefully in an already incendiary situation. And we should put the rioting in context. More than 100 arrests were made in London on Wednesday night for the last football season, for which figures are available. The highest number of arrests at any ground West Ham was 89. That's all season. So this is large-scale disorder, which I believe was fomented by those who think they have easy answers to complicated questions and who seek to politicize the personal heartbreak of the people of Southport. I can't remember feeling so troubled by what's going on around me. I understand that people feel angry about all sorts of iniquities, and that immigration is, for lots of reasons and in lots of areas in the UK, a touchstone issue. But there are no easy answers to our immigration conundrum, whatever the likes of Nigel Farage and those causing trouble on our streets might want you to believe. Nigel Farage has doubled down on the controversial remarks he made after the Southport knife attack, claiming his comments were perfectly reasonable. The Reform UK leader and MP for Clacton sparked outrage after he questioned whether the truth is being withheld from us after 3 girls died in a stabbing at a dance class in Merseyside. He also baselessly claimed the attacker may have been on the security services watch list in the video he posted to social media on Tuesday. His comments sparked immediate outrage online, but he stood by them. On Wednesday afternoon, Farage told PA News Agency, "I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask what is happening to law and order in our country. And who are the perpetrators? Why?" Very legitimate questions I was asking, and to conflate that with EDL English Defense League or anybody else, frankly, it's desperate stuff. His pushback came after Brendan Cox, husband of murdered MP Joe Cox, slammed Farage's original comments, saying they made him nothing better than a Tommy Robinson in a suit. Robinson is the founder of the far-right Islamophobic group the English Defense League, which is believed to have been behind the violent Southport riot which broke out on Tuesday. Further far-right demonstrations took place in both London and Hartlepool last night. Many of the protesters are believed to have been galvanized by a wave of social media misinformation wrongly claiming the Southport attacker was a refugee and had links to Islam. One particular demonstration last night led to the arrest of more than 100 people outside Downing Street. And according to Politico, one protester was wearing a t-shirt with the words Nigel Farage for Prime Minister and Tommy Robinson for Home Secretary written on it. The Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards Daniel Greenberg issued a warning to MPs shortly after Farage's comments. "I do not comment on specific instances of statements made by particular MPs," he told the newspaper, but generally urged MPs to be careful about the language, tone, and veracity of what they say. Meanwhile, the former police counterterrorism chief Neil Basu directly called out Farage on Wednesday. He said the MP had given the EDL succor, undermining the police, creating conspiracy theories, and giving a false basis for the attacks on the police. According to The Guardian, Basu asked, has Nigel Farage condemned the violence? Has he condemned the EDL? Fomenting discord in society is what these people seem to exist for. Deputy Angela Rayner also told LBC that as an MP, Farage must understand you have a level of responsibility. You are a community leader and therefore must not stoke up conspiracy theories. The tragedy in Southport and the unnecessary violence that followed it are likely to be an early test for Starmer's government. One unfortunate distraction has been the Twitter tussle between Jess Phillips and Nigel Farage. While facts from the attack first dripped out, the Reform leaders speculated whether the truth is being withheld, a nod to rumors about the identity of the attacker. In response, the Minister for Safeguarding and Victims criticized Farage for not turning up to Parliament, accusing him of grifting instead. Nigel Farage's comments were designed to inflame the situation. He knows the power of floating rhetorical questions before the facts are fully known. It was an unacceptable play into conspiracies that were already whirling. He did not solely provoke the violence that followed, but he certainly added to a febrile situation that already threatened to spill over. Yet the correct response from the government is not to pick a further fight with him. MPs have a duty to calm rather than inflame, but this is even heavier upon ministers. Responding in anger is often understandable. It is, however, rarely a course of action that improves the situation. Most people will form their own views of Farage's comments, and those who support him will only be encouraged by Labour's disdain, not dissuaded. Instead, ministers should get to grips with the underlying causes and tackle them. Phillips holds an important brief that she cares deeply about. She also understands the dangers of online rhetoric. She has spoken powerfully about threats and harassment she has received, including during her recent re-election campaign. Picking fights with Farage is a poor way to continue this work. The way in which both the violence in Southport and support for Palestine can spill over into ugly incidents has similar causes. They lie in marginalization, poverty, and sections of society where people, mostly men, are prone to violence and seize upon a cause as a flimsy excuse for this. Farage played into this when he made his remarks, but going after him only plays into his games. He and his supporters relish in the disdain of people like Phillips. It's the sort of behavior that flies in opposition but cannot stand in government. Those who chose to turn Southport's tragedy into an excuse for violence are a real problem, but they are a problem the government needs to understand as it tries to fix it. This doesn't mean appeasing the mob, but it has to go further than simply picking online fights. The problem of opposition, as the Tories are learning, is that you can only take pot shots from the sidelines. You give that up when you enter government and gain the ability to actually engage with the problems. As Labour gets used to governing, they need to understand that there are some fights you are better off not picking. Unguarded comments about foreign leaders undermine diplomacy, while hurried responses on domestic issues can stoke the same sort of division you are responsible for quelling. While Farage was clearly beyond the pale, understanding why such a febrile environment emerged after the Southport attacks is probably more important than attacking him for stirring it.